In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro delves into multiple pressing topics, including the fallout from President Trump's address to Congress, the ongoing situation in Ukraine, and the Supreme Court's recent ruling regarding DOGE cuts. Shapiro begins by reflecting on President Trump's recent address to a joint session of Congress, which he attended. He describes the atmosphere as electric, with Republicans displaying enthusiasm while Democrats appeared disorganized and unresponsive. Shapiro notes that Trump's speech was strategically crafted to highlight the achievements of everyday Americans, which left Democrats in a difficult position. They were criticized for failing to applaud significant moments, such as the stories of a slain police officer's son and a young cancer survivor. This lack of response, according to Shapiro, was a significant optic loss for the Democrats. The podcast features commentary from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, who expressed disappointment over the Democrats' behavior during the address. Shapiro emphasizes that the speech was a major win for Trump, especially as he enters a tumultuous period in his presidency where political capital is crucial. A significant portion of the podcast is dedicated to discussing the Supreme Court's recent ruling regarding DOGE cuts, which has raised constitutional questions about the power of a district court judge to compel the federal government to disperse funds. Shapiro explains that the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, remanded the case back to the district court for clarification on the obligations of the government regarding paused foreign assistance payments. Justice Samuel Alito, in a strong dissent, criticized the majority for allowing a single district court judge to have such power over federal spending. He argued that the ruling sets a dangerous precedent, potentially enabling any district court to issue nationwide injunctions that could disrupt government operations. Shapiro agrees with Alito's concerns, highlighting the implications of judicial overreach in this context. Shapiro transitions to discussing the broader economic implications of President Trump's tariff policies. He argues that while tariffs can be used as leverage in trade negotiations, they also pose risks to the American economy. Shapiro warns that a trade war could lead to increased prices for consumers and undermine the value of the U.S. dollar. He emphasizes the importance of clarity and predictability in economic policy, suggesting that uncertainty can stifle investment and growth. The podcast also touches on the ongoing trade relationship with Canada and Mexico, with Shapiro advocating for a balanced approach that prioritizes national security while also fostering economic cooperation. He expresses concern over the potential negative impact of tariffs on American consumers and producers, urging the administration to consider the long-term consequences of its trade policies. Shapiro discusses the evolving situation in Ukraine, particularly in light of President Zelensky's recent statements indicating a willingness to negotiate for peace. He notes that the U.S. is applying pressure on Ukraine to come to the table, while also emphasizing the need for reciprocal pressure on Russia. Shapiro expresses skepticism about the effectiveness of current strategies, questioning whether the U.S. is doing enough to compel Russia to engage in meaningful negotiations. The podcast highlights the complexities of the conflict, with Shapiro pointing out that any peace agreement must address the realities on the ground, including Russia's territorial ambitions. He calls for a more robust U.S. strategy that balances support for Ukraine with pressure on Russia to ensure a sustainable resolution to the conflict.